Michella Chester here with NCAA Digital. I am joined by Evan Marinofsky today, our NCAA.com hockey beat reporter. Evan, you broke down the biggest storylines for this upcoming hockey season. All of them super interesting, but we want to take a deeper dive. One of the biggest question marks, perhaps, is can UMass repeat? Can they go back to back? Well, they just lost back to back games to Minnesota State. What is your outlook on them this season?
Well, obviously the losses to Minnesota State don't help, right? UMass goes down to number 7. Minnesota State jumps up to number 1. Minnesota State goes in and just kind of wipes the floor with them, so to speak, in the two games. But I don't think this is something that's going to affect UMass. I think this could actually sort of help them along the way. I mean, obviously the two games were not great, right? You saw the defensive issues in both games, especially in the 5-goal third period in that second game. You saw the losses of Zach Jones and Mark Delgado on D were obvious. However, this is a team that's gotten better all 5 years of Greg Carvel being the head coach. This is a team that really, really has become a college hockey powerhouse. I don't see this team being affected that heavily by this. I don't. Now, are they going to repeat? It's tough to tell. I mean, Minnesota Duluth repeated just a few years ago. So I think, this is a team that's becoming, as I said, a perennial powerhouse in college hockey. There's a lot of teams that are going to be coming after them the whole year because, as we all know, when you're the team that wins the championship, everyone's gunning for you. So I think it's going to be very interesting to watch as the season goes along.
One of those in particular, St. Cloud State. They make it to the finals last year. What do you think their path will be this year?
Well, that's the team. I just ranked them number 1 in the Power 10. I know that they finished, they're ranked currently, as the time of recording this, number 2. I ranked them number 1. When you put a team that loses in the national championship, you also add in the factor of Easton Brodzinski, who's this 5th-year forward from St. Cloud State, who broke his femur last year in the regionals, came back for his 5th year, shouldn't have even been back for the first game of the season, was back, scored 2 goals. I look at this, he's a moral leader for them. This is a team, in that NCHC, they picked number 1. That's a team that has kind of all the makings, right? When a team wins a championship, you have all that motivation. That's the team. That's a team I look at and say, they've kind of got a lot of different motivation. And you also look at UMass. UMass lost in the national championship in 2019. There wasn't one in 2020. And then they come back and win it all motivated in 2021. So that's a big thing for them. So yeah, I see St. Cloud State as a favorite to go back to the national championship. And hey, maybe even win the whole thing. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Evan, one of my favorite storylines, Michigan, Minnesota. Michigan, as we know, loaded with talent. It's actually absurd. But do you think Minnesota can fend them off this year?
It's a great question. And what's funny is we've seen with college hockey over the years, you have these star-studded lineups. BU had a lot of them in the mid-2010s. You wonder if you see the veteran teams with the experience beat these younger, more talented, so to speak, teams. But Michigan's so good. You look at the guys on their roster, Matty Beniers, Owen Power, Kent Johnson, Thomas Bordelot. I mean, I look at that and they're all second-year guys. So what, you see a trend in college hockey lately where these sophomores who are these top NHL prospects becoming, just crazy good in their second year, Cole Caulfield, Cale Makar. So with Minnesota, I do think there's a lot there of veteran talent. Jack LaFontaine returning in net, who's one of the best goalies in college hockey. You have Sammy Walker, Ben Myers, good veteran players. They play each other 4 times this year. So that's when we're really going to get to see the measuring stick on if this Minnesota team can knock off Michigan. The other thing is Minnesota was picked number 1 in the Big Ten for the coaches poll, which is wild, which a lot of people did not see coming. My guess is Michigan does kind of edge them out throughout the year. But if any team can do it, it's Minnesota because they have that veteran and that sort of veteran leadership on their team to do it.
You're mentioning all of these amazing teams. I anticipate some really great matchups this year. Can you pick some of your favorite games of the year for us?
There's a lot, as you said. I think UMass Michigan in early January is sort of the one that I have circled on my calendar, and that's because it's the former national champ against a team that is definitely looking to go there. I mean, Owen Power said in an interview with me back in September that one of his main reasons for coming back to school was to win a national championship. So you have that. That's going to be a big measuring stick for both teams. Is UMass good enough to compete with a team like Michigan, and is Michigan good enough to be a national champion? I also look at St. Cloud State. St. Cloud State opens their year. They obviously opened with St. Thomas, but then they face Minnesota and they face Minnesota State. 4 games in the span of 2 weekends. Now, this game upcoming, Minnesota State and St. Cloud State, that's 1 and 2 in the nation. So that's going to be a heavyweight tilt. And then you have Minnesota after that. So that's going to be a huge test. I also think another fun matchup is North Dakota, Minnesota, Duluth. And the reason I find that so fun is because that last time they played, they went to 5 overtimes in the regional final last year. And then you also have, as I mentioned earlier, Michigan and Minnesota facing each other 4 times this year. It's so fun that they get to be in the same conference and duke it out all year long. So those are my big games to watch. There will be other fun games to watch. Obviously, BU's big every year, and those are both really good teams this season too. But the ones I mentioned are the ones I think have big implications for that national tournament.
Definitely. I know you mentioned one candidate earlier, but before I let you go, my final question, can you name your Hobey Baker candidates for this season?
Well, there's a lot. I think the 2 that are from last year that were in the top 10 were Dryden McKay of Minnesota State and Jack LaFontaine of Minnesota. Those are both the 2 probably best goaltenders in college hockey. They're going to be back on the list most likely. Dryden McKay had a great weekend this past weekend against UMass, and then obviously Jack LaFontaine's yet to play at the time of recording, but I have no doubt that he's going to be tremendous this year. Some other guys, I think, obviously Michigan has a bunch. Owen Power, Thomas Bordeleau, Matty Beniers, Kent Johnson. Those are all guys who I could see absolutely vying for the Hobey Baker, especially just the trend in college hockey, as I said. Cole Caulfield, Cale Makar being former Hobey Baker guys, all kind of flourishing in that second year. So I see them fighting for it as well. One guy I have yet to mention, Jake Sanderson, defenseman from North Dakota, really, really good. He is very good. He's another top 5 NHL draft pick, and he had a great goal this past weekend. He's a guy who is a great puck-moving defenseman. He fits with where hockey's going as a game. He's someone I absolutely see vying for the Hobey Baker this year. Another defenseman, Jordan Harris from Northeastern. He's a little older, but he's really creative. He's really good, and he's so good at both ends of the ice. Some other forwards, Bobby Trevino of UMass, senior this year. He's a guy obviously on the reigning national championship team. He's the heartbeat of that team. He's the captain. Johnny Evans from UConn is another one. Will Cavalry of RIT. VT Mietinen of St. Cloud State. Parker Ford from Providence. So there's a lot of, as I said, there's a lot of good candidates. And Michella, it's going to be really fun this year to see all the teams that kind of flourish every year. There's a new team that comes to the forefront. There's new guys. So we're going to be watching that all at NCAA.com.
Absolutely. So many teams, so many great players, a lot of talent. It's going to be a great year of college hockey. Evan, thanks so much for joining me.
Of course.